let some of the public comment come, then we're gonna bring you back up. Okay, does that work? Yes, thank you. Mr. Weatherall, and then I've got 3 others.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chairman. My name is Peter Weatherall, and I'm here this morning to request that the Commission consider putting this opioid litigation contract out to competitive bid or RFP. By way of introduction, I've been practicing here in Nevada for my entire career, which is 27 years. I'm peer review rated AV preeminent by Martindale-Hubbell, which is the highest level you can achieve. I'm one of 16 lawyers in all of Nevada who have been certified by the state bar in the specialty of personal injury. I'm published on the issue of pharmaceutical litigation in Nevada. I've represented the state of Nevada through Attorney General Masco on 2 occasions, once in the endoscopy litigation and once in a hormone therapy litigation against manufacturers Wyeth and Pfizer. My verdicts are not as large as Mr. Eglett's, but I do believe that the verdict that my firm helped attain in the Wyeth versus Roack case remains as the largest pharmaceutical or products liability verdict in Nevada ever to have been affirmed by the Nevada Supreme Court. That case resulted in a recovery of $78 million on behalf of 3 women stricken with breast cancer as a result of a hormone therapy drug. That case also went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we defended that successfully. I'm on the agenda tomorrow in Reno for retention by the Reno City Council in this opioid litigation. However, in the interest of full disclosure, when I learned that Mr. Eglett's firm was also interested in pursuing retentions by cities and counties in Nevada, I wrote a letter to the City Council directing them to open their process up to competitive bid. I didn't think it was appropriate, given other competent firms' interest in representing cities and counties here, that it should be a closed system up in Reno where only Weatherall gets considered. And for the same reason, I'm here before you this morning, suggesting that you have far more leverage than you may realize as you sit here in deciding.
Turn the clock off. I didn't want the 3 minutes for the presentation. It's good. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have far more leverage than you realize to take a look at the firms out there and see what they have to offer in terms of representing Clark County. I guess my main message today is choices and options and competition. When are those ever a bad thing? To date, only one choice has been offered you, and actually Mr. Eglett's firm is on the agenda for approval for retention today. I'm asking you to sort of step back and understand that there are many highly qualified firms around the country, either in conjunction with my firm or other firms in Nevada, who are interested in your business, who are interested in pursuing this litigation on your behalf. And they should at least be considered and vetted before being ruled out. I was not privy to the conversations that resulted in the agenda item today for Mr. Eglett's firm's approval. I only know that my firm and others who I understand are interested were not part of that process and were not considered. Now, let me be very clear. Mr. Eglett and his law firm are exceptional lawyers, and I consider them friends. and I've worked with them in the past. They are a supremely valid choice for representing the county. However, they are not the only choice available to you. They do not have a monopoly on the providing of competent legal services. And although they may have the inside track here today, they should not have the exclusive track. If they are the best fit and the best firm for Clark County, that would be revealed through a brief process of consideration of others as well. I read the agenda item, the notice of this agenda, and I read from that the understanding is that Mr. Eglett and his firm are uniquely qualified. Again, they are eminently qualified, but they are not solely and exclusively qualified to the exclusion of others. In the realm of representing cities or counties in pharmaceutical litigation, I believe that Mr. Eglett's firm has the same experience as myself, which is neither of us have ever represented a city or county previously in pharmaceutical litigation. In the realm of representing the state of Nevada in pharmaceutical litigations, I've actually done it twice. Mr. Eglett's firm has never done it. But I'm not saying that to disparage his firm or his experience or his credentials at all. I simply point that out to tell you that there are other nuanced judgments that are available to you to be made about who might be the best fit. In terms of prior experience in these types of cases, I can tell you that there are 150 opioid cases presently pending as of this morning in federal court. And the news this morning, big news in this litigation, is that the opioid litigation proceeding in federal courts have all been consolidated into an MDL in the Northern District of Ohio. What that means is that the nerve center of this litigation for all those cases I just mentioned is going to be located in Ohio. And while I agree 100% with Mr. Eglett that the best strategy and the best effort should be made to keep Clark County's and other Nevada cities and counties cases in Nevada State Court, there is no question that the results or the outcomes or the decisions of that court in Ohio have the ability of affecting what goes on here. The upshot of that being that we can't lend a blind eye to what's going on in Ohio. In fact, there are firms nationally, those firms that have 150 cases already pending, who are lining up to establish themselves for appointment on the plaintiff's steering committee in that litigation going on nationally. To my knowledge, neither Mr. Eglett's firm nor my firm are direct participants in any of those 150 cases that are already ongoing. And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, it will not likely be the case that Mr. Eglett or I will be on the plaintiff's steering committee in Ohio. However, it is critical for you to understand that those few firms, and there will probably be 10 or so, that are plaintiff's steering committee members, are deserving of your attention and consideration in sorting out whether or not you want them as part of your litigation team. This is not an I alone can do this scenario, okay? And I speak to that not only as to my own qualifications, but also as to Mr. Eglett's and his firms. There are other experienced firms out there that you should consider, that you should put this out to bid for. The fact that Mr. Eglett's firm collaborates with other law firms around the country, the fact that he shares information and resources, you should understand that we all do that in this realm. It takes a village of very competent lawyers to take on drug companies of this magnitude in cases this complex. So that's not an unusual or unique feature of what Mr. Eglett and his team bring to this litigation. Bearing all the risks, incurring all the costs. That is not unique or unusual. It is standard practice for contingent fee lawyers operating in this realm. We only get paid if and when we win. And if we don't win, we eat our costs. So that is not an unusual feature. The contingent fee, who set that here? In the absence of any competition or dialogue, it appears to have been set at 25% of whatever is recovered. Was that the result of competition, of competing interests, or was it simply something that was arbitrarily selected that you had no participation in deciding? Again, you have far more leverage than you understand, perhaps, in deciding how this litigation goes forward. My only suggestion to you respectfully is, notwithstanding my tremendous respect for Mr. Eglett and his office, that you open this up to competition. And if he's the right one for the job, he'll get the job anyway. Thank you all.
Thank you. Before I take this, do I have any other law firms interested in making a brief presentation before I take some public comment? Seeing no one, I've got 3 or 4 cards here from general public members that wanted to comment. Would anybody like to sit down and make a comment on this before I call down our DA and Mayor? Good morning.
Good morning, sir. First, thanks so much for all of you and your service. I appreciate what you do, and I know all your jobs. My name's Dave Marlin. I'm a CEO of Solutions Recovery. I've been a Nevadan for over 30 years. My job and calling is helping treat people with the disease of addiction in Las Vegas. We recently started treating veterans. I was astounded to hear that 50% of our veterans getting out met the definition for chemically dependent, and as they're getting out of service. So we treat lots of veterans, and to me, someone having the same disease I have and having served our country, I'm just particularly grateful to be able to help them. And I echo Robert Eglett's comments about how important it is that we help them. I do want to let you know that the Robert Johnson Foundation says that addiction is the #1 health problem in our community. And on the ground in Las Vegas, I know that to be true. And I believe, even though you all hear about it all the time, it's probably worse and more pervasive than you realize. The numbers, the fact that every man, woman, every adult in the U.S., that's how many prescriptions were written, it's really daunting. I applaud the Commission, District Attorney Olson, for having the vision to sue Big Pharma for the devastation that they've created in our county, in our state. It makes sense to me. I've worked hard with enforcement, with the prevention community, with the treatment community to help address this disease, but exploring the legal judicial system, unfortunately, it's an effective tool in our country. I congratulate you all for having these presentations. I know and have talked to Robert Eglett's firm and several of their lawyers for quite some time. I just heard that they won 4 of the largest jury verdicts in history. I applaud Robert Eglett's firm, or Eglett Prince, in their goal to set aside money in the settlement or verdict for treatment, because this is a disease and it is treatable. I have seen, thank you, I have seen the opioid manufacturers and their marketing distribution efforts have a correlation to this problem, but also a causal relationship to this. And I've seen that with my own, when I'm doing assessments or interventions with our clients. The number one health problem we have is addiction. It's treatable, but we do recover. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, appreciate it. Anyone else? Got a couple more cards, but.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Clark County Commission. My name is Guadalupe, or Coach, Captain is my name. I'm the president of the Best Brad Veteran Faction. I'm a current Gulf War veteran. My organization, we assist veterans, spousal veterans along with spouses. Excuse me, I apologize.
Take your time.
Our organization is not for profit. It's a nonprofit organization, which we have thousands of veterans in the Clark County, including spouses, as well as healthy addictions. My organization and I strongly urge you to hire the law firm of Eglet and Prince, which has successfully history of winning big cases against big pharmaceutical companies for the damages that they cause to our country and our veterans, which I have witnessed veterans passing away of addiction under my organization. The law firm of Eglet and Chris also represent many veterans, including several Vietnam veterans. Therefore, we urge to process today this case to hire a law firm of Eglet and Prince, and together we can, instead of putting a Band-Aid like the VA does to the veterans, we can make a strong bond between the veteran community and the civilian community. I do thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa, for your comments, Sir Coach, and even more importantly, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Good morning to everyone. I have this written because this is a very important issue for all of us and all of our community. And when something is very important, I always write it down. Members of the board, my name is Pt1, and I'm a community activist here in our county and also a businessman. We all know that the opioid epidemic has destroyed thousands of lives and killed thousands of innocent people in our county. Therefore, I applaud all of you, especially Chairman Sisolak, for understanding this issue and for wanting to take action. Also, I congratulate District Attorney Steve Wilson for his leadership on this important issue. District Attorney Wilson's recommendation to use a law firm of Eglet Prince in this case should be adopted unanimously. I join my veteran friend, Lupe, in saying that the law firm of Eglet Prince has a distinguished history of successfully suing big pharmaceutical companies. And on behalf of our county and citizens, Attorney Robert Eglet has been voted twice the top trial attorney in the country. Not in the county, not in the city, not in our state. He has been voted the top attorney in the country. If you think of how many lawyers there are in the United States, that's a very significant fact. Mr. Eglet, who was born and raised in Clark County, also has the distinction of having obtained, as we heard, 4 of the largest jury verdicts against Big Pharma in the history of America. Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, I strongly urge you to vote today to proceed with this case and to vote today to hire the law firm of Eglet Prince. The decision should be voted and approved today. Why? 1, because Robert Eglet is the best attorney in Clark County and in our state. 2, because if you wait until tomorrow, we will lose one more citizen from Clark County to an opioid overdose. I repeat, if you wait one more day, because every day we wait, we lose one more citizen from our county to opioid overdoses. This citizen will be somebody's father, somebody's mother, or maybe one of our citizens' children. Please vote today. This is good policy. This is good government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment? Seeing no one, I'm going to ask DA Wilson to come on down, and Ms. Miller is welcome to join him if she chooses. And then we'll open up to questions from whoever anyone wants to question.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, fellow commissioners. This agenda item reads in two parts. Number one is my request that you authorize the commencement of a civil lawsuit and to do so immediately. And secondly, to allow the law firm of Egbert Prince to associate with my office. First, as you've heard from Mr. Egbert, they're ready to go now. They've been working on this, they've been preparing for a year. I can't think of anybody who's in a better position to commence this lawsuit than the Egbert Prince law firm. And secondly, their law firm itself. I respect Mr. Weatherall. I don't know him personally. I would accept the fact that he's eminently qualified as well. But the county is familiar with the work of Egbert Prince. You know, our justice system is a result-oriented business. Mr. Gibson, your attorney, you know what I'm talking about. It's all about results. And that's what we want and need as a result of this lawsuit. And I can't think of a law firm who's better equipped for all of the reasons that you've heard this morning than the Egbert Prince law firm. So that is why it is agendized the way it is. It is my request that you authorize the commencement of civil litigation and that you authorize the Egbert Prince to be co-counsel with the Clark County District Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Ms. Miller, go ahead.
I would just remind this board that you've always directed our office to, whenever possible, to hire local professionals. While there are many good attorneys in the round, including Mr. Weatherall, they would have to go out of state to maintain litigation of this nature. Mr. Eglert's firm can keep it all in state, and he also has the necessary national connections that I think we need to do. And of course, most importantly, we need to get rolling immediately.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the board now for any questions they have of whomever it might be. Commissioner Kirkpatrick, welcome right down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a few questions for DA Wolfson that I want to ask, because what I don't want is this to become a he said, she said. I want to know the legal facts, and I want to understand where our footing is. And, you know, this is a personal issue to me. Mr. Marlin and I have been working on this in 2011, and quite frankly, we didn't have anybody standing behind us, right? 2013, 2014, crickets, right? People trying to address this issue. If you've ever truly been through an intervention, it is the most heart-wrenching thing that you've ever done. And the follow-up care, you take a chance that you even get to that point, right? You hope that 1, 2, 3 times you might get there. And you know exactly what was said today. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much money you make, and it doesn't matter what race you are, and it doesn't matter what age you are, right? Everybody's impacted. So thank God, right, that nationally, NACO has been talking about this, which has gended up the last couple of years. The governor did we did some committees so that we could start meeting, working with the Retail Association to get this much done. So I will settle for nothing less than all of it this time, because I personally live this, I understand this, and I only want people that are truly going to step up for the long term and not the short term. Because if you're an opiate user today, 10 years from now, I got to worry about what's going on with you, and I still got to give you those resources. You can walk into any, in any given day, just put it in perspective. So we're having a real discussion about this, right? You can go to urgent care in the morning, the dentist in the afternoon, and you can go to your primary doctor in the evening. I had 90 opiates, right? 90, because we don't ever talk about how many should you get. We talk about making sure that you don't have any pain. For hell's sakes, Advil does just as much ibuprofen as some of these other things, and unfortunately, we're losing kids at 16 from sports injuries is where this starts. And it doesn't stop at opiate use, right? Then you have crystal meth, then you have heroin. God knows what's after that, because we haven't even had that conversation yet, right? Because we're just trying to fix on a regular basis. So I want to have some real discussion on the state versus the federal, because I think that we have a place in both, quite frankly, right? Because for the long term, on the federal side, they should step up, right? The FDA, they're the ones that allow all these things to come forward. And so they should step up for the long term, for 50 years from now, right? So we don't make the same mistake again. But on the state level, I'm struggling to why the cities have a role to begin with, because at the end of the day, we as the county, we as the state, we gotta pick up the pieces, right? We have all of these, and this is probably not the right terminology, but half-baked, drunk houses out there that say that they're gonna help us, and we pay millions of dollars to them, and there's this many that are actually making a difference for the long term. We don't have very many in Nevada, let alone in Clark County, right? People are sending their children outside of the state to address this issue. So is there, I want to hear from you, right? Because you're the one that's leading the charge. What is the state side? And I'm not being passive aggressive. I just want you to know it's super passionate to me, and I've been working on this for a long time, so I want to hear the facts so that we can make a decision today. So what is the state side versus the federal side, and we've got to have something in between, first and foremost. I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman, so if you'd like me to put them all on the record, I'm happy to do
Why don't we
it.
let Ms. Wolfson answer that one, and we'll come back to you for the next one, okay?
Let me, Commissioner Kirkpatrick, let me try and answer your question. I think Mr. Eglin is probably better suited to address what efforts at the state and federal level, but let me try and address your concerns. I share many of the concerns you do. I've been a resident here for approaching 38 years. In my industry, the criminal justice field, I've seen and witnessed and participated in many of the experiences you're talking about. At a briefing I had with Robert Eglin about 10 days ago, I looked at him in the eye and I said, are we going to win this thing? Because it's all about winning. And he didn't flinch and he said yes. So I have a lot of trust and a lot of faith in the result that we're going to get. With regard to the differences between proceeding on the state and federal level, I think you've heard why, in his opinion, it's best to approach this in state court. Mr. Eglin, I invite you, with your permission, Commissioner, to address the state and federal question.
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Kilpatrick, because it is very, very important question. You brought up a point. It's part of your question that this starts with our children. Many times, many of the cases we have in our community and communities like ours all around the country, it starts with a 16-year-old or younger sometimes having a sports injury, and they go to the doctors and they might get a minor surgery or some other thing, and inevitably they are prescribed opiates for the pain or the recovery from the surgery. These opiates are extremely addictive. The drug companies, argue that they were not addictive. Less than 1% of people get addicted. But the fact is, it's a much higher percentage than that. If you take oxycodone, the chemical compound of oxycodone, it is simply a synthetic form of heroin. It is the same thing. And so our kids are getting addicted, and oftentimes they're going on when they can't get the pills anymore, they're turning to the much cheaper heroin. So this is a significant problem, and I applaud you bringing that up, Commissioner. With respect to the state versus federal issues, let me explain to you, for example, if the state of Nevada were to bring an action, and shortly after, almost immediately after the last legislative session, Attorney General Laxalt asked me and my firm to come and present him and his deputies with a presentation similar but much longer than the one I gave today with respect to the state. The state has exclusive jurisdiction over the Medicaid dollars, and this has cost the state a great deal of Medicaid dollars, and obviously if the state brought an action, which I personally think they should, they would have all those Medicaid dollars. The problem with just letting the state handle this jurisdiction is much like the tobacco litigation. Of the $1.2 million for the tobacco settlement litigation, I don't know of any money that actually went to people who were suffering from lung cancer or the other problems that are caused by cigarettes, and I don't think the counties and cities received any of that money. So that's why I think it's important for the county to bring its own action. I went through all the various damages the county would be entitled to. Those are services that the county provides to our citizens and what they would be compensated for. With respect to the issue of the MDL, the filing federal court versus the MDL, all I can say is we've handled a lot of cases over the years where our cases were sucked into the MDL because we couldn't prevent it, and invariably you lose local control of those cases. You don't have a say-so on the amount of the settlement, and it becomes, quite frankly, for the local entities and clients, a disaster because they are not fully compensated. And let me give you just one example, because we always fight to keep our cases out of the MDL because we always get more money for our clients when we stay out of the MDL and out of the federal system. The Actos litigation is a perfect example. And many of you remember Actos, a drug, a diabetic drug manufactured by a Japanese company called Takeda. There's a large MDL going on. About 6,000 people across the country who have bladder cancer taking this medication. We handled a great deal of the many of the cases here in Southern Nevada. We filed those cases in state court. We kept them in state court. When the MDL settled, they got an average of about $200,000 per client in their settlement. We got an average of millions of dollars for our clients in the settlement. So you are always better off. The county would be much better off staying at the state level. And Commissioner Kirkpatrick, if you're talking about the, I keep wanting to call you Madam Speaker, habits. Commissioner Kirkpatrick, if you're talking about what is the federal government going to do, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know if they're going to, file a lawsuit on behalf of the federal government or on behalf of Medicare or anything else. I only know that right now, what we can do and what we should do is we need to get into this litigation, keep it in state court, so we don't end up just having to wait around for whatever crumbs are spilled our way, like what happened in the tobacco litigation.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on this particular question, that I guess I'm looking for the answer to if it's in state, does it 100% stay in state, or is there a chance that it goes to federal court, or how does that work? I know that the U.S. Supreme Court can always appeal, somebody can always try to get to the Ninth Circuit Court, but I'm wanting to understand what is what's the expectation of for sure it's staying in our state?
Nobody can guarantee anything when it comes to legal proceedings, but I will tell you that in order to be in federal court, you have to have what's means complete diversity, which means the plaintiffs and the defendants on both sides of the aisle have to be from different states for the federal courts to have jurisdiction. In this case, one of the defendants in this case is Watson, who at the time they were producing these drugs was a Nevada corporation. So they will be sued. And then there is also a local pharmacy who was supplying a number of the pill mills here locally that will be sued locally, as well as some of the local detailers for some of these drug companies. That will keep the case in state court, and the state court will have jurisdiction, because diversity is destroyed by doing that.
Okay, and if I could just ask one more thing, Mr. Chairman, just to, and I'm no attorney, but I want to know the layman's terms, right? Because this affects everybody across the board, so I want to understand some of these attorney terms. Inter alia, what's that mean in this brief? I don't know what that means. I'd like to know what it means.
Inter alia.
I'm not sure what brief, you have to be put in the context of the brief for me.
So it says, line 1, item 149, the county has sustained specific and special injuries because its damages include INTER space ALIA, health services, law enforcement, expenditure, costs related to opiate addiction treatment, and overdose prevention.
Inter alia means, among other things, it's common,
Okay.
it's lawyers, you go to law school.
I'm not an attorney, but I want to
know,
explain it to my peeps.
What I tell everybody, lawyers, they send us to law school, and part of the brainwashing there is they teach us not to talk like human beings anymore, and we use words like that in our briefs.
Commissioner Gibson's laughing, and Commissioner Brown wants to know what page you're on, so.
Whatever. I'm actually reading the brief because I want to understand what the damages could be specifically. Because for me, pretty PowerPoints don't always translate into.
So I just know what you're referring to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are you talking? What brief? A draft of the contract?
She's looking at a copy of the complaint that we provided her.
Mr. Chairman.
I should say it's a draft complaint, and that is what the commissioner's looking at. It's a draft.
Apparently, Commissioner Kirkpatrick asked for a copy of the draft, which she has been provided with.
I spent 2 hours on a Friday morning asking and reading through, so I apologize, but I didn't share with my colleagues.
Okay, does that wrap up yours, Commissioner Kirkpatrick?
Yes, for now.
Commissioner Nicolette?
For now.
Just a couple of things. I think if you're going to have a copy of the draft, the rest of us should have an opportunity. Thank you for being proactive on that part. I want to take a step back on this agenda item just for a second, and that is about a month ago, I started conversing with our county manager about it, because I've been talking to some other commissioners around the state, and talked to NACO as well. Brought it up to the last emerging issues, and talked about a presentation, discussion, and so forth. And while I appreciate the manager added my name to Commissioner Sisolak's agenda item, I want to note for the record, because it's awkward with us running for office, that I did not ask for any particular firm to be named in this, because that's, nor was I even briefed by the DA, so I guess there's only been one conversation going on. But I just want to note that for the record, because I don't want anybody making any kind of allegations or anything along those lines. I didn't know about the selection. I had asked specifically for this board to be informed, to have presentations, to have a discussion, and then it worked into this. So I just want to note that for the record, because with the circumstances going on here. You mentioned, Mr. Eglin, in the Tesla Pharma, that's one.
Teva Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Teva Pharmaceuticals is the largest generic pharmaceutical
Right.
company in the
And you
world.
mentioned the second one.
McKesson,
So I saw in Wisconsin,
they're
they're
a
also,
pharmaceutical distributor.
right, they're also doing Purdue, Cephalon, J&J, Janssen, and Endo. Are those other potential client or suits that you might be looking at?
They'll be a lawsuit for this.
So you're not doing anything, first pick is not doing exclusive, only one or two, because there's a whole meeting, this is the whole big pharma thing.
Right.
And last session, Ivana Kinsella struggled to finally pass legislation on transparency for the big pharma companies. And we finally got a thread there, but this will be a huge issue no matter what, as far as what's concerned. One thing I had talked with NACO about, which was, and what I brought up in emerging issues, was to make sure I don't know how they, I'm not an attorney either. Are there possibilities that we cover both bases so that we file an amicus curiae on behalf of the other counties or on behalf of ourselves with the Attorney General or not? I don't know if that's a pro, con, or otherwise. I was around when the tobacco settlement came in and the counties got zip, maybe a few bucks, but outside of that, it all went to the state. And I don't see any protections, but maybe it's in the brief draft or something, that makes sure that whatever local government goes forward can at least recoup some of those costs. But then we make sure that we give some of that cost. It's not just about the jail time, it's about the individuals, that we have programs that actually go forward for counseling and helping people that are addicted.
And I agree, if you look at the average, there's different opinions on what the average price of a 28-day inpatient rehab visit is. And it only inpatient, and Mr. Marlin, I think, can tell you this, only inpatient rehab works for these type of cases. The average price, is somewhere between $25,000 and $40,000 per stay, and in most cases, it takes at least 2 or 3 stays before they are actually.
Sure, there's always a
Yeah.
not recidivism, but something.
And
along
so,
those lines, yeah.
and that's one of the things that's important about the county bringing this case, is because the county, this money will go to the county. This isn't going to go to the state. The money that's recovered on behalf of the lawsuit of the county is going to go to the county. So the county commission will have the discretion on how to appropriate those funds, how much they want to put into drug rehab, how much they want to reimburse the various law enforcement and various agencies for what they've gone out with. That, that's obviously a political decision, but that would be your discretion as the county commissioner.
So you don't see that there's a tie to any recouping of any costs that come in, that we will be dictated as to this must go to emergency management, this much might.
No, there's no requirement that the amount, I mean, obviously, when we present our damages, and we have an expert accounting firm, an expert economist who will go through all the details of the documents to determine how much has been lost in every area. We present our damages. If it's a jury trial and the jury decides, they don't put specific amounts for each thing. It's all, these are the compensatory damages, one big lump sum. It would be up to the county commission to determine how to allocate those damages.
Okay, and I hope if we go forward and that we're successful, that we have that kind of conversation, because it's not just recouping social services and DFS and emergency and jail and so forth. There are people that are behind all of this that supposedly we're caring about.
And my point, Commissioner, was simply that these are all the various areas where the county has been damaged and has been strained financially, all the money that's lost. As I outlined those, that it wasn't meant to say, well, this much money is going to go here, this much money. So that's a political decision up to the county commission.
And then I just saw that Santa Clara settled one of the lawsuits. How does that go about? Is that each jurisdiction? Do you get to something close and you say, you know what, rather than going to trial, I can get this kind of a settlement?
That's that jurisdiction.
Oh, it's that particular jurisdiction.
It's that particular jurisdiction. I mean, there have been, I think there was a county in West Virginia that settled years ago, and a few counties, and it goes to those jurisdictions. In our view, I mean, doing the research and working on this case for over a year, they settled for way too much money, but again, we weren't there. I don't know what the political climate was for there at that time.
So what is your contract exactly? Because I'm only reading what's in that. There's no backup in this. So hopefully it says that you'll bear all the risk, but that's common within this. We'll have contingent fees. What is standard for contingent fees?
So standard, let me talk about this because Mr. Weatherall addressed this issue. The standard fee for personal injury cases is 40%. Now you see, you hear 1/3. 1/3 is if you don't have to file a lawsuit. If you file a lawsuit, it goes to 40%. What had happened is during the 2015 legislative session, Senator Brower introduced a bill that they ran through and was signed by the governor. I'm not sure why, I don't know the background of it, but the bill essentially took the power away from our state's attorney general to retain outside counsel to bring cases like this on behalf of the state. We had been working on this case at that point for quite some time. And so during this legislative session, I got some people to sponsor a bill and lobby for a bill to give the Attorney General's office that power back. One of the complaints from Senator Brower and some of the other people who voted for the Assembly and senators who voted for the bill was they didn't like the fact that the Attorney General was paying these high contingency fees to some of these outside firms, and many of them out-of-state firms, quite frankly. So to solve that problem, we said, well, let's just put in the bill a 25% contingency fee. So that's what we did. It's a 25% contingency fee that's part of the legislation, is what the Attorney General can pay. So the Attorney General can't now pay for one set of lawyers more and less for another set of lawyers. And so when we came up with the 25%, although I don't believe that legislation necessarily applies to the counties and the cities, we just said, well, it's appropriate because that's what the state would have to pay, that we would put that amount in. And it was interesting to me because Mr. Weatherall's proposal to Reno was for a 30%